Welcome back to another rousing episode of Talk Dead to Me, the only Walking Dead podcast with the guts to start at Season 10. I am your host, Johnny Odell. I'm the social media manager for The Walking Dead, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Alexander August and Woody Tondorf. Woody, what do we have to look forward to this week?
Johnny, for once, I'm glad you asked, because this show is going to be pretty good.
I think they're always pretty good.
Yeah, but this one's definitely going to be like above average. So,
okay.
I mean, because 10:06, we're going to talk about it right away. It was really, really good, classic Negan stuff. And as I understand, we have a new segment later on in the show that is actually called Classic Negan.
Sure do.
Which
Damn, classic Negan.
I stand corrected. And then we're going to do some ship watch. I think we've got some pretty good voicemails about what enemy faction the viewers or listeners would want to be a part of. And then before the voicemails, we have another very special guest, Emily Kinney.
Woo!
Beth is on the show this week.
She is back. She is alive in the Walking Dead universe, confirmed.
What a comeback. Nobody saw that coming at the end of 10:06 with Beth just like showing up next to Carol and Daryl being like, "Hey, I'm definitely still alive." That did not happen.
Surprise!
Spoilers, I guess.
And friends, if you could please give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen on. And also, special announcement, we will now be populating to YouTube. So if you're a YouTube person, more than a podcast person, then by all means, find us there.
I see some people commenting on the YouTube videos of our podcast, and I'm in the comments responding back to them. So if you've got some questions and you want to word it in a civil manner, then we can have a discussion.
All right, well, let's jump right into the episode. This was a big one, a lot of comic comparisons. We'll get into that later. But Alexandra, let's go through Negan and Beta's whole interaction this whole episode.
Bonds was probably my favorite episode of the season thus far, if only because of all the Negan, Beta, Bagan, if you will, goodness that we got. Negan arrives at the Whisperers, being dragged there by Beta. Beta has to gag him on the way because classic Negan, he does not shut up as a rule. So Negan gets gagged, he gets put in front of Alpha. Beta's like, let's kill him, he's weak. Alpha sees that Beta is kind of threatened by this. Beta sort of steps to her when she says we should save him, and because he disagrees, she's like, oh no, now you're spending the day together. It's very Parent Trap. So we get this amazing montage of Beta putting Negan kind of through his paces, has him dig a big hole, doesn't tell him why, doesn't tell him what it's for, they do this little like comparison montage where Negan does something and Beta does it 2 times better, and Negan's really annoyed. Like they skin some walkers and Negan pulls off a small skin flap he's real proud of, and Beta pulls off a book-sized skin flap, and then Negan carries over a walker and Beta carries over 2 walkers on his back.
I really wish that Eye of the Tiger was playing during all of this.
I was going to say, I want to go on, like, somebody please put several different music tracks to that, because I also feel like the, like a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, like, when the
The Entertainer.
Or You Make My Dreams Come True.
Oh
There's
my God,
so
perfect.
many good ones.
Yeah, just go nuts.
It's hilarious. The tiny knife is probably my favorite part, when like everybody's getting big knives and hunting stuff, and Negan gets like Jeffrey Dean Morgan's face is like, oh yeah, and then he just hands him the tiniest, like most insulting pocket knife that later breaks.
Of course.
But Negan performs because he's Negan. And at the end of sort of the day, they've dug a hole, they barbecued a pig, which I was really impressed by, that the Whisperers at the very least have good barbecues, which I feel like is the only reason to stay.
Well, as good as you can get. There's no grill, settings or anything. It's really just a hole with dirt in it.
Negan gets all like, I'm ready for some bacon, and Beta's like, no, I hate you.
You can't sit with us.
Exactly. And so Negan's like kind of pouty. And eventually but he still performs, and Beta eventually just decides to cheat and leaves him surrounded by walkers to die, because Beta is just like, no, I'm not having this. And then in the morning he goes and tells Alpha. Alpha seems a little suspicious that Negan didn't make it, but before she gets a chance to say anything, Negan rolls through with Lucille 2.0, bends the knee to Alpha, gives like a great speech, and Beta, his head explodes. It's kind of romantic given Alpha's reaction to it when he says, whatever I have is yours. And he's very sincere in this moment. And Alpha just kind of sniffs his face, kind of like a cat does when it meets you, if it's one of those kinds of cats. And then looks like she's about to smooch him, but pulls back just to the last minute and goes, shh.
It's very sensual.
It really is.
Very Jon Snow, Daenerys vibes I'm getting. You have two leaders, at least Negan is a former leader, and one of them is bending the knee to the other one, and there's definitely some sexual tension, and I can't wait to find out that Alpha secretly is Ant, and they're going to bang in the woods, and it's going to be really great, so look forward to that.
But I want to ask you guys, so what do you think? Okay, I was looking at this, and at first I kind of read the scene as like Alpha's playing with her food, because Alpha likes to play with her food, and Negan at the very least is amusing, and Alpha certainly isn't afraid of him. So I'm like, okay, she's keeping him around because why not? And also he's clearly probably got some viable information. But then I rewatched it today, and I also think given the line that we get early in the episode where she tells, when Beta says he's a threat, and Alpha says to Beta or to Alpha, and Beta kind of harumps and she's like, you have been disagreeing with me a lot and I don't like it. And then at the end of the episode, she welcomes Negan in with open arms. Part of me thinks this is in large part to mess with Beta and to test his loyalty, see what he does.
Yeah, she's Alpha's management strategy is very much a like iron sharpens iron advancement through competition type thing, because like the ascension of Gamma feels like something that like Beta was very much against. We're still going to promote her anyways. Negan comes in, who is like absolutely in every way, shape, and form like the opposite of what you would want for Whisperer culture, which Beta very accurately calls out on. But she's still kind of like, it might be pretty good. Let's push it forward.
And Negan's definitely the guy she tells you not to worry about, you know? Like Beta's the one like
Yes.
Beta's the one hanging out. Negan's the jock that for some reason joins the AV club and it just disrupts everything. And the guy co-running the AV club is like, what is this guy doing here? And just seeing that juxtaposition of Negan and Beta and Alpha all in one place is so good.
I love the AV Club metaphor because, oh my gosh, did Negan walk in and disrupt the nerd order of things? And I say this as a nerd. That's brilliant.
It's devastating to Beta. And also because you're seeing that like Alpha absolutely responds to this. So he's just like watching his whole like subservient like Starscream like kingdom like fall apart, which is just delicious.
Speaking of the Whisperers, we got to see Daryl and Carol this episode kind of hunting them. But Carol was not like very honest with Daryl through that. What do you take us through that?
Oh man, the evolution in this season of Carol has just been fantastic. And I Johnny, you're a child, so you probably didn't watch the show, but I'm getting real big Carol Jack Bauer vibes. You know,
I watched 24.
Oh,
I
so
love
you saw
24.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah,
okay, well, you got this. Like Carol goes out, starts her day, and Daryl immediately sees that she's loaded for bear and has this whole kind of like, hey, you want some company? Let's, we're a team. We're great. People love us on the internet. Like, let's go on an adventure. What are we doing? And she lies to him. She keeps checking down through her deceptions. At first, it's like, oh, we're looking for Negan. He sees through. Daryl sees through.
I had
that.
so much hope for that moment.
How fun would that have been? And like, although the other part, just take a quick step back, I'm seeing some comments about people, and I think we might have talked about this on the show, that Carol is the person who let Negan out, which to me, like, if that's true, and we get a flashback of Carol being like, here's how it's gonna work, I will lose my mind.
Oh my God.
I can't see a world where it happens. I feel like it's a simpler solution, but like, oh man, if it was a team up from the start, I would lose it. It would just be incredible.
I love this Jack Bauer comparison because basically in 24, the CIA or the president or someone would tell Jack Bauer, hey, do this, make sure you don't do that. And he's like, got it, I'll do the opposite. And then if you're like, Jack, we don't need you talking to terrorists, just stay where you are, we'll give you instructions soon. They turn their head for 1 second and they turn back and Jack Bauer is full on waterboarding, like a whole gaggle of terrorists.
Exactly.
And you're like, God damn it, Jack, why won't you do the things we tell you to do? And that is very much Carol. And you said evolution. I argue it's a devolution. I mean, she keeps getting at happy places, but now she is just full on committed to revenge, and she's letting that blind her completely.
She did this in the prison, though, too. She went super rogue, and she killed the people who were suffering. I don't remember their names, but she killed the people who were sick. She murdered them.
Yeah. Yeah, Carol is... in this season is laser focused. And just like Jack Bauer, who's identified the big bad, who is whatever assorted Russian or Middle Eastern person or whatever minority that Jack Bauer is focused on straight up murdering. Like, she doesn't care about anybody else except getting her satisfaction, which is murdering Alpha. And so once she's past like the facade of like, we're going after Negan, she tries to convince Daryl that, like, oh, we're going after the Alpha's horde, which makes a ton of sense and is also very 24. We're looking for the nuke. We want to go and defuse the nuke. And so they hang out in the woods, cracking wise as they do. We get a little bit of a nod towards Donnie. Carol has eyes. She wants Daryl to go for it. And then they like start to fall into a kind of like, okay, we've been looking for this horde for a long time. And then they see a couple like whisperers out there and she's like, well, let's go get one. Daryl's not totally on board with this plan. Also, he's pretty sure that she's also another Jack Bauer comparison. Jack Bauer always had in 24 this magical satchel that he brought with him everywhere that was like the TARDIS in Doctor Who. Like anything that you wanted in that satchel, whether it was like a handgun, C4 explosives, or like a full-on sniper rifle, like he would just reach into that thing and take it out. And so Carol has like all of these implements of death. She's loaded for bear, but like Daryl knows something's in that satchel that like is a no-no. So she's either brought the gun that she used to take a shot at Alpha or something like that. He looks in it. She basically is like, hey, do you want to frisk me? Which is the perfect deception thing. If one of your friends goes, hey, do you want to frisk me because you think I'm like lying? Frisk them. They're your friend. Okay? Like it's fine because later on, Carol essentially just like leaves Daryl to his own devices and to like smear himself with walker guts and try and get away from another whisperer because she found the second whisperer has apprehended him and has magically has zip ties on her person, which like she is using now to reveal her true cause, which was just to nab a whisperer and interrogate the hell out of him. Like that dude is getting waterboarded 100%. So that was the way that was going to go. But by the end of this thing, the dynamic between Carol and Daryl has been changed. They used to share everything with each other. They were a total indomitable team. They trusted each other 100%. And Carol has kind of thrown that out the window in favor of her vendetta. And I think we will see the repercussions of that in the future episodes. But it was thrilling stuff, but like Carol doesn't care about red tape. She doesn't care what the president or anybody has to tell her because she is focused on just straight up killing the target. And it's seeming more and more likely like we're going to get to that place.
I'm a big believer in forgiveness over permission, but I don't think this is one of those cases. I think this is a wildly dangerous thing to do with the mess with Alpha's people. I think Alpha, I don't know how this goes, but if she finds out, then maybe she'll use it to her advantage. I'm not really sure how it'll work, or she'll attack harder. We'll see what happens. But do you think Daryl has like an unlimited runway of chances he's willing to give Carol, or do you think at some point he's actually going to bend?
I don't know that there's anything she could do to fully break that relationship. I think there's something that she could do that would make Daryl turn her in and like basically not snitch, but like essentially go and out her for what she's done.
Like this is for your own good type thing. Like you're off the reservation.
And he seems to fully believe that in like, hey, I'm not going to poke this bear. I'm not doing it. I've seen what's happened. He seems to be fully on the side of like, we're just going to chill. And even if he was willing to make a move, you're right, Johnny, what she did was super dangerous. And it's not like Alpha's not going to notice someone missing. It's like that. So Carol really did something that is going to have consequences here. And Daryl's like, what the hi?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if we find any sort of limitations on what Daryl wants or will allow Carol to do to their prisoner.
Yep.
And either way, I would not want to switch places with that whisperer for all of the beer in the world. That dude is in for a rough afternoon.
Absolutely. All right, so now on to the third main story of this episode, which revolved around Eugene. This is actually as exciting as the Negan beta stuff was. This is one of the most exciting things for me. I'll tell you why in a second. So in this episode, Eugene finally makes contact with someone who's not Rosita or any of the other communities while he was searching for, the right channel. He comes in contact with someone. We don't know their name yet. We know she's from Strasburg, Pennsylvania.
Fun fact on Strasburg, Pennsylvania, the first of many. Population, 3,000. Johnny?
Thank you, Woody. So what we find out is she doesn't reveal too much. She's like, hey, let's be careful. Either of us could be dangerous. Let's not say too much. But they do basically have an all-night heart-to-heart. Eugene seems completely smitten with this person on the radio. And, he deserves it because all this Rosita stuff, even though Rosita will talk to him occasionally across the radio, Eugene kind of needs someone that, can attend to him. And I say that because in the comics, what happens is that we later find out, and we're not saying this is true for the show, but in the comics at this point, Eugene, this is almost verbatim. In issue 152, we find out that this woman's name is Stephanie. She lives in a giant community in Ohio called the Commonwealth. That's the next big community we go to after the Whisperer War. And she's not a villain. She's a good person. And she basically encourages Eugene and a small group of people to travel and meet with her. And it's there that they find Princess on the way. And then, a lot of things can happen. So this might be a good first step to where this season ends. I don't know.
The rules that she establishes for Eugene are almost word for word the rules that they establish in the books, which is, hey, I can't trust you. You might be dangerous. So from here on out, I will only talk to you. And if I hear anybody else on the other end of this line, I'm never calling back. I know that I can't trust you. Also, quick sidebar, Strasbourg fun fact number 2. In the earlier days, the settlement was known as Hell's Hole because of its apparently uncouth residents.
So anyway, that was my favorite part of the episode, and I'm really glad that we're seeing this. I do think that it's building up to a Commonwealth story arc, and for those who haven't read the comics, the Commonwealth is kind of where they end the comics on. They're in Commonwealth. There's other communities there too. So maybe this is, the first hints of an end game. Maybe they'll Game of Thrones it and keep going past the Commonwealth story arc. We'll just have to see.
It was funny that we mentioned the dynamic between Negan and Beta and the rest of the Whisperers is the new dude who comes into the AV club because the woman who is at the beginning, there's a woman who's delivering supplies.
Nabila.
Sorry?
Nabila,
I'm sorry. And she says, anything for the Hilltop AV Club or something to that degree. And it's really cute and great. And Eugene has used the satellite parts to help increase the range of his ham radio. It's great. Also, Eugene would be comically easy to catfish. I'm just saying. Because the whole deal that he has the whole radio up is that he wants to have a conversation with Rosita, and things aren't going super great with Alexandria, which we'll get into in just a minute. But then he meets this other lady on the radio and has a whole screen name where he calls himself Taterbug. It's lovely.
Okay, the AV Club thing, he was so sincere when he wanted Nabila to stay.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, hey, if you want to stay, you can be let's be an AV. You want to start an AV Club? And she was like, I have kids, but you have fun. And oh my gosh, he just wants someone to play with.
And before I forget, speaking of AV Club, this scene just reeks of Stranger Things Season 3. For those of you who aren't caught up, skip ahead 30 seconds. But basically, Dustin has a girlfriend who's long distance, who we met at Camp Nowhere, and they speak because they both have to build these really elaborate radios because long distance calling was really expensive in the 80s apparently. And so they build these radios and they talk to each other, and it's during this huge climactic moment in the Season 3 finale, and they end up singing Never Ending Story to each other. And the fact that Eugene refers to himself as Taterbug, and in Stranger Things it's Susie Poo and Dusty Bun, it's just so many parallels. And if this season doesn't include a full-on sing-along to Never Ending Story, I will quit my job.
In future news, Johnny is no longer with Skybound.
Yeah, seeking social media managers.
You're going to have to wait until that musical episode for Fear.
And then really quick before we go on to Ship Watch, during this episode, we also saw more people keep getting sick in Alexandria. What the hell's going on? According to Dante, it's just butterflies. So he's not a doctor.
Dante is... I'm going to ask this one more time. Is Dante a doctor? This dude sucks.
Dude, if we find out that not only is Dante a whisper, he is legit failed out of medical school, and that's why not only has he been trying to corrupt Sadiq's efforts, he's also just not a doctor. I will eat my hat and laugh so hard.
It's like the Community joke of but you got your degree from Columbia, and he goes, yeah, now I'm gonna have to get one from the United States.
Yeah, so that's not great. Yeah, it was kind of comical seeing Sadiq's reaction because he was at Hilltop for 2 seconds and he comes back and half of Alexandria is in the infirmary and he's like, what the hell? What is going on? And Dante's like, oh no, just a lot of case of the butterflies going around. And he's like, what are you doing? Just because he has a lab coat does not make you a doctor. And that's an important lesson you should all learn in life, guys.
Fake it till you make it, dress for the job you want.
All right, now it is segment time. We are going to go straight to Ship Watch. I ship, you ship, we all ship for Ship Watch.
Oh, excellent. I love it. I love when we do the boat sounds. Really spent the money there. I'm going to kick it off with the ship that I'm the captain of. I'm full sail, swabbing the poop deck, batting down the hatches, mainsails, all of that, all aboard the SS Donnie, because not only has it been blessed by Dog, not only has it been blessed by me, now Carol knows about it, sees it in Daryl's face, and basically is like, you know what? Just do it. Just go for it. And not in like a fun rom-com way where like you can tell that she's like, oh no, try it out, but I secretly pine for you. Like Carol sees an opportunity for Daryl to be happy and have a girlfriend, and she wants him to do it. And I love it. And that's why their relationship is great.
Hold please. But the entire time I was watching this scene, I was like, my head was bursting because I was just like, Carol, you completely abandoned your husband in his hour of need and are ignoring him completely. And you're sitting here talking the big game to Daryl about you don't want to be alone when you are fiercely and angrily and spitefully alone, lady.
Staunchly.
I was just waiting for Daryl to be like, seriously? Like, talk the talk, lady. You need to walk the walk.
May I see you over here by your ex-husband who has thyroid cancer?
Yeah, and also, like,
well,
being alone is my brand.
She does not know.
Daryl's Wolverine.
She does not know about the thyroid cancer, and
I know, but still, a grieving husband. I think she's like it was just hilarious to me how she was so self-contradictory in that moment, despite how genuine, how like kind of right she is for Daryl.
And the last ship watch we have is Negan and Alpha. I kind of touched on this, but they were almost a thing in the comics until something horrific happened. I won't spoil it for you here in case it happens in the show, but Negan and Alpha, I feel like there is definitely some fireworks between them, and I fully expect them to at least almost kiss, like that one cover of The Walking Dead. I expect that to happen.
I feel like it's going to get weird, but I kind of stand by my...
Let me ask you this, Negan. Have you ever boned in a twig cabin?
I'm also very excited to see what Samantha Morton does with that because, again, like, I don't know if you guys know this, I stan her. But also still, I think that it's going to be very... I don't know if Negan knows that Alpha's Lydia's mother, but like I said this last week, I think it's going to get weird, and then I think we're going to see Negan's true colors show up when she mentions Lydia or when that comes up. I'm really excited for that conversation because he's going to have to exercise a lot of self-control not to reveal his identity because I have to believe that he loathes her for the way she treated that girl.
Oh, he's going to use that as a tool 100%. I mean, the whole deal is that all the Whisperers just assume that Lydia is dead. And the moment that somebody is like, oh, hey, Lydia, like, Negan's going to be like, hey, by the way, well, I've got you here in this dark corner. I know that your daughter is alive.
Quick question. Is this the first time we've ever seen two major Walking Dead villains meet?
No, the governor and Rick met at one point outside the prison. Nailed it! Rick's the villain! It's a matter of perspective.
Okay. All right.
Well,
everyone but Woody. Like, is this the first time that we've seen like two major? Because I mean, I'm saying not necessarily like Gregory and Negan because Gregory's a villain, but like, or Simon and Negan because same faction. I mean, like two people who've had their own seasons. Have we? I don't think we've seen that before. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the union of two big bads. I like it.
Ooh, yeah, me too. It's kind of like Euron and Cersei.
Exactly
like that. Actually, that does kind of make, that actually makes a certain amount of sense because there's a whole like, one is a female head of state who's hung up on her kids and like has no qualms about just like murdering every single person who looks at her. The other one is like a loudmouth, brash pirate type dude who wears cool clothes,
leather, black leather, loves to hear himself talk.
Speaking of leather jackets and talking too much, this brings us to our new exciting segment called Damn Classic Negan.
Damn Classic Negan.
All right, for this segment, we are going to talk about our favorite Negan moments really quick in the show. This will obviously be a more specific segment in the future, but for now, we're just going to go over our favorite Negan segments ever. What do you take us away?
Absolutely. Fun fact number 3 about Strasbourg, Pennsylvania.
Damn it.
Massasoit Hall, the largest building in Strasbourg, is still owned by the Strasbourg Independent Order of Odd Fellows, a civic group still active in town. Johnny?
I didn't know that. Great. Not exactly a favorite Negan moment. I would say my favorite Negan moment is when he comes to Alexandria in season 7 and totally dunks on Rick. Man, if we did the podcast back then, the whole podcast would just be a dunked on. Like, it would just be, that's another segment we do, by the way.
With shattered backboard.
Shattered backboard.
Is this the spaghetti episode?
This is the spaghetti episode. Ooh. It was kind of a 2-parter. But Negan comes in. He's like, where's Rick? Yeah. And they're like, oh, he's not here. He's like, that's all right. I'll wait. Let's make some spaghetti.
Yeah, that was a weird episode.
It was weird, but I love it so much. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan shined, and this is the first time you could actually kind of forgive him a little bit for Glenn just because of how charming and interesting he is as a villain. It's not like the governor where he's just straight up evil. I mean, this guy's a sense of humor. Alexander, what was your favorite Negan moment in The Walking Dead so far?
My favorite Negan moment in The Walking Dead so far. Before, I also wrote down some quotes from this episode because he was just back in full force, and I think it's worth paying some homage. My favorite Negan moment is the conversation he has with Michonne when she radios him to tell him that Carl has died and to read him Carl's letter. I like Negan's moments of humanity. I think that's what makes for a good villain, and I think the key to that sort of was Carl. And when he stops and he asks, "Was it us?" Oh my God, that just I was just like, oh yes, more, please. Yeah, so that's mine.
Mine, honestly, it's a tie between two. The first one is this episode. Like, this was after so many years of walking in the desert of no classic Neganisms. It's like he waited for just a greatest hits. From saying that he's going to need an extra large skin suit for the size of his balls. Like,
reasonable request.
Which is almost word for word from the comics, except in the comics he's talking about his thick, meaty dick. Those are his words: thick, meaty dick.
Stupid television.
It ain't ego if I really am that awesome. Like, all of the it was a quote machine, but that's tied for the runner up, or the tie is every time that he talks to kids.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
When he explains how airplanes work.
Yeah, and asks, like, Judith, have you ever seen a plane before? Like, that was wonderful. And also teaching her math. Like, the whole conversation with Milo about, like, all of the fun things of growing up. And, again, explaining planes because Negan is oddly, like, obsessed with planes.
Don't forget nut tapping.
And nut tapping. I mean, big F in the chat for Milo. But, like, that was, damn, classic Negan.
My other two favorite lines from this episode, because I especially went back and listened to the episode and wrote down his quotes, were, "Whoa, cool your tits there, Jolly Green Giant." And wait a minute, did you just make a goddamn joke?
That was great. He literally leaves him to die, and he's like, wait a minute, did you just make a joke? Wait a minute. And wait.
I would be impressed if I wasn't so goddamn pissed right now.
It did take us a while to calm Woody down when he learned that he didn't say Beta McTwo Knives. I mean, there is definitely a time that could happen later this season.
We have episodes to do it.
I thought it was Crazy McTwo Knives.
No, it's Frowny McTwo Knives.
Frowny McTwo Knives.
Ah.
We have weeks to get to Frowny McTwo Knives. Look, you don't use all the Neganisms in the first real episode where Negan's back to being Negan.
Does he actually say that in the comics?
He calls him Frowny McTwo Knives.
Shut the front door.
I will not. It is closed.
I did not think I could love Negan more.
Look, they've brought out so many of the comicisms. It sounded like the shooting the boar is in the comics. Yep. Except he actually shoots the arrow, and he's so excited about it. And the next panel, you could tell that he's been like admonished pretty hard because he's explaining himself to somebody else. He goes, "Look, I've never shot a boar with the fucking arrow before. I was excited. I'm gonna talk about it." Like, you can't keep Negan in a box. And this is just, I'm so happy that he's back. It's gonna be so wonderful, especially at the end of the season when he's running Alexandria.
All right, on to our guest this week. It's a very special one. They're all special, of course, in my eyes, all equal. But this week we have Emily Kinney. She played Beth Green on The Walking Dead from seasons 2 through 5, and we miss her dearly. So really excited for you guys to catch up with her. She's making some awesome music, some that may have been teased in a recent Walking Dead episode. So we'll definitely dive into that.
Johnny.
What?
Is Beth coming back?
In this podcast, yes.
Okay.
All right. Cue the music. All right, our special guest today, you know her as Beth from The Walking Dead. She has a lot of amazing music out since she's been doing that. She's been doing a lot of amazing things. It's Emily Kinney. Emily, how you doing today?
Hello, I'm good.
Great. So you've said before that in addition to writing music, you also write poems and short stories. How do they differ? And do your poems and stories ever get turned into songs?
Definitely. Like, I feel like I write a lot of poems on planes. I don't know why, but something about being in a plane, like my brain is really free. And so I'll find myself kind of like thinking of poems. And then a lot of times once I'm home or to the place where I was going, I'll start messing around with the poems on guitar. So yeah, a lot of my poems do actually get turned into songs in a similar way. Sometimes I'll sort of rhythmically, almost in a song-like way, be making poems that I don't think should be songs, but it's almost like that's how I for me, there's something about like rhythm and like a certain pitch or tone or something that like leads me in a direction. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
well, poems are, they're very rhythmic, and so so yeah, it kind of goes both ways. And then with short stories too, short stories don't necessarily make it into my songs, but in the way that sometimes they'll like lead me to a song. Like one time I wrote a short story about being a little kid like who ran away for the day and like nobody noticed. And some of
hmm
the things that it kind of like stuck with me while I was writing it, and then it kind of turned. It didn't directly relate to the song, but just those ideas of like, oh, I'm like a runaway. I'm that like the ideas like stuck with me and turned into a song later. So yeah, they all kind of come from a similar like storytelling place. I think that's why I'm like an actor too.
Right. You're kind of like a triple or I guess quadruple threat. I mean, you
Whoa.
sing, you act, you write, you occasionally dance in music videos.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone would call my dancing like a threat. Like
maybe like a half threat.
yeah, okay. I
Okay.
can keep the rhythm. Although I've
Yeah, for
actually
sure.
been taking these like adult ballet classes lately.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
so fun, not because I'm like good at it, but just because like it's literally just for fun, and I think it's good to have things in your life that don't have like, now my music and acting, it's all kind of like now there's like an expectation for it in a certain way. I mean, I guess you can't help it if it's your career or your livelihood, and I think it's good to have like fun things that there's no like end game.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Typically, like with most of your music, which comes first, the words or the music?
They usually come together around the same time. I would say words first though. Like I usually do have something that is in my brain for a while, sort of like a phrase. Like maybe I'll be having a conversation with a friend and that friend will say something really insightful, or, I don't know, and I'll just sort of like attach to a phrase that I hear,
Right.
and then I'll start sort of building a song around that phrase or that idea, or maybe it's even just me. I'll come to a certain realization, but sometimes having that, like I said, same thing with like it's like sometimes it'll be that everything's sort of on one wavelength, and then as I dive deeper into the song, that's when I start going like, oh, okay, here's the chorus, here's where the chords change, here's where but yeah, I guess I do sort of start with the words.
Gotcha. Is it more cathartic to write about love or to write about heartbreak?
I think that for me, a big part of why I like writing songs is I like that feeling of, because I don't feel like in real life I'm always the best at like knowing how to say exactly how I feel in the moment. And
hmm
it's nice for me to have a chance to um come back and say like I said before, like my side of the story. So I feel like in heartbreak, it's a special, if you're in love with someone and you're telling each other that you like really love that, like that person is becoming your confidant. So most likely I haven't felt like misunderstood when things are going good. But
Right.
when things
Yeah.
are going not so good, that's when you feel like, oh, I don't feel understood. I This is going to make me feel better if I write it in a song or something like that. So I do feel like the heartbroken ones are more cathartic, and I do find that I get a lot when it comes to fans. Like I feel like there's this song, it's Expired Love, that I wrote a long time ago, but that one comes up continually as like one of people's favorite songs. And I think because it's like when you're bummed, you need to connect more than you do when you're in love. So they're looking
Right.
for songs where they feel more, they're like, oh, now I feel connected because I needed it when I was heartbroken.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's awesome. Do you ever get people who ask you, "Hey, is this song about me?" Or, uh, do people
Um,
ever joke, "Okay, don't put me in a song," or, how
yeah.
does that work,
Oh,
like with friends?
yeah, definitely. I mean, people ask me a lot if a song is about a certain person. And my answer to that is that it's never about the other person, it's about me. Like if a song feels
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of, like it's never about like someone else. Like it's always about me, and I'm processing something. And like if a song sounds like sort of like, I got a lot of reaction from this song called Loser, and it's like, how does it feel to be a loser and stuff. And I try to explain to people that that song is not about like the other person. It's about me and how I feel. And if that song sounds like sort of sort of mean or like telling someone they're a loser, it's like, no, that's how I'm talking about myself. Like
Right.
it's
A little
about,
self-deprecating.
it's a reflection of me. It's not a reflection of this person that I've put into the song, because even if a real person inspired it, you know, then my imagination takes off and I dive deeper,
Right.
and maybe the story isn't, you know, the facts aren't all true. It's just like made up in my head. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Some people may not know this, but you grew up in Nebraska in
Yes.
parts of North Bend and Wayne, right?
Yes.
What? So some people, obviously, people on the coasts. I'm from Cleveland, which is a big city, but I still lived in the suburbs, and I also grew up in South Carolina, so I kind of know the sort of, quote unquote, flyover state-ish sort of thing. What do people not understand about places like Nebraska, where it's kind of like smaller towns, but I personally like defending those kinds of towns. I think they're great.
Yeah. There's so many wonderful things about Nebraska and like a small town. I mean, I remember feeling very safe, I guess, in this, like we never locked our doors. I remember when we would go
Oh,
out of
wow.
town for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, it being a thing like, oh, we got to find the key so we can lock the door since we're going out of town. Like it wasn't like I remember my friends like, yeah, just coming in the morning for cross country practice and like being like, hey, we got to go run, you know, and like come and like waking me up. Like, so it was literally like
Yeah.
such a safe, you know, I felt very, so that feeling is so nice. I mean, and I also just liked in smaller towns, you know, everyone goes to the same public school. I don't feel like there's as much of a divide between like rich and poor as there is in other in bigger cities, just because there
Yeah.
can't be like even if there's like rich, you know, even if like, I don't know, the doctor's kid or something, like obviously they probably make more money than the people who work at like the convenience store or something like that, you know, like, but we all went to the
Right.
same public school, and like it didn't have a lot to do, like, so I think that's a nice thing. I mean, I feel like it doesn't really matter like your status and your um and what you have available to you isn't as based on some of that stuff, I don't think. However, obviously when you go to like New York, LA, there's just more stuff to be available. Like there's just things you never even thought of, and like I was really drawn to that. Like I wanted to get out of Nebraska and know what more there was, and like have access to um all kinds of new things that I didn't have before. But I do think that growing up in a place where you know, everyone goes to the same public school, and you know, the community is close, and you know the people that you're at the gas station, you know the people that work at, we had this place called Pomida, like, and I knew like my friends' parents that worked there, and you know, like I think having a
Right.
community is really special. I think in bigger
Go ahead.
cities you can have that, but you have to make more of a conscious effort. Like it doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a new single out called The Turtle and the Monkey, and
Yes.
a lot of people are really excited about it. Anytime you release new music, it's very exciting to your fans. What inspired you to write that?
When I first wrote it, I had gotten into like a fight with a boyfriend, and I think that you know, it was kind of like before that it had been very easy and magical, and I think that like,
Yeah.
you know, I was starting to realize that, you know, I haven't had a lot of really long relationships. And I was starting to realize, like, oh, this is the part where you have to sort of like, you see the person for who they are, and you have to start like making choices to continue in it. Like, it's not like, oh, yeah, it just works forever like this. Like, there's a time when maybe things don't flow as easy, but you continue to choose the relationship and recognize each other's differences and let each other be who they are, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
it does make sense. I think, yeah, it's very relatable.
yeah, I just feel like it's the moment in the relationship where it's like, oh, this isn't like, I mean, I do think that love and is like magical and all those things, but it's also like, it's actually something you have to put work into. And that doesn't sound as like romantic and sparkly and special, you know? So I think like like, the song is kind of like, oh, wait, we're different and this is hard.
For sure. I know. Yeah, I was
And
rereading
there's,
the lyrics and listen. Go ahead.
yeah, and there's a point in every relationship where it breaks down. And I think at the beginning of relationships, you always think there's this weird thing where, like, or at least I feel like all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, we're amazing, you know, like we are.
Right. Yeah.
like
Yes.
like we're so amazing together. And I never, and like, you know, you tell your friends like, oh, don't worry, you'll find the amazing thing someday. Like you feel a little bit
Like you have it all figured out.
like you have it all figured out. I mean, love makes you feel that way. That's what's so wonderful is like,
Yes.
and you can give that, and like even to your friends, you can recognize that and give that to be like, oh, when someone loves someone else, it makes them feel like stronger and like they can conquer things. And like, so that's what's so special about the beginning of a relationship. But then as it goes on, you know, there's always going to be like, there's a moment where you're like, oh, this isn't, oh, I have to actually like, I have to work at this.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. In last week's episode of Walking Dead, a lot of fans noticed that your song, The Turtle and the Monkey, was featured briefly when Magna was playing her radio. It wasn't your vocals.
Right.
Some people theorize it's Ryan Hurst. I don't know how much you can say about that or not, but how did your song or part of your song end up in this
Yeah.
or last week's episode?
Well, like I said, I'm always writing, and actually, when I wrote that song first, I had been spending like a lot of time in Nashville, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be such a great country song, and so I wrote it with the idea of as a pitch song, because a lot of times I'll write songs not, and then go like, this doesn't really fit like the vibe of my records, but like maybe this would work for someone else, and so
Right.
I just kind of like kept it, you know. And then it so happened that there was, you know, an opportunity. They were like, we're looking for country songs for the Walking Dead. And so I
Yeah.
sent it.
You're like, I've heard of that show.
I sent it over. Yeah. And then I didn't hear anything for a few months, but then sure enough, it came back around, and the showrunner reached out to me, Angela, who I obviously knew really well from working on the show. And
Right.
and it came back around, and sure enough, they wanted to use it. And I think that's pretty much all I can say, because I don't. But just basically that they needed a country song, you know, a country song to use.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people still mention you all the time. If there's any kind of cliffhanger or something, people are always like, is it Beth? Is it this? Is
Oh
it
my
that?
God.
Would you, they've done a lot of experimentation with flashbacks and sort of dream sequences where people who were killed off came back. Would you ever be open to coming back in that sort of way on any of the shows? I mean, they're doing movies now. It's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, I mean, totally. It's so fun. Like, I love playing Beth. I love acting. I love being on set. I mean, I don't, yeah, I mean, if it made sense and was cool, yeah, I'm always open. I love working.
Yeah.
So,
When you were on the show, whether people were right or not, a lot of people wanted Beth and Daryl to happen, even though I know it's kind of sometimes like a sibling thing. And now, like 10 and a half seasons in, Daryl still hasn't really had any kind of like romantic interest. Do you
yeah.
have any opinions on that, of like why he just sort of keeps to himself?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that would be better to ask Daryl.
Norman?
Or Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, about why. I mean, or the writers, you know? I mean,
Right.
I
That's
don't
true.
know why. I mean, it is the apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, and like I don't know, you know, like maybe some people it's just not the right environment to like start a relationship. So I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like everyone reacts differently. Maybe some people jump into a relationship, and maybe some people would be like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Was there any truth to any of the like Daryl Beth stuff, like in your mind, like romantically, or did you see it as sort of like a sibling bond? Like, how did you view it at the time?
I just viewed it as a bond, and just like any new sort of relationship slash friendship, I feel like it's like there's always like questions about where it's gonna go or what kind of relationship it is. And I mean, it really was just the beginning of them becoming friends and being people they could, lean on and trust. And so I don't really know. That's how I feel. Like I think that
Gotcha.
there wasn't, yeah, I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's vague. They keep it vague.
I think it's vague on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So we asked some people on Twitter just for if they had any questions, and we got a few. There's actually, I'm sure you're aware, there's a Emily Kinney fan club at FC Emily Kinney, and they want to know what can what can we expect from your new album? Do you have plans to make a music video for the turtle and the monkey?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. I don't have
Okay.
plans. I don't have plans to make a video right now for the turtle and the monkey. But maybe. Um,
Okay, maybe.
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
And then yeah, I have some ideas for my next single for a video. So I'm kind of like, more onto that one, I think. And then my next album is different than my last one. I think it's the same in that, like, there's a lot about lyric, or it's very like lyric based, story based. But one way that
Mhm.
it's very different from my old music is I feel like my old music, I really used my relationships as kind of fuel for my songs. And this album is obviously relationships come into play, but I think it's a lot more about um just like my life as an artist and as a writer, and like figuring out like where you fit in the world. And it's a lot more about family. Like there's going to be a song called Genetic Makeup and one about Omaha, and so it's like a little bit
Yeah.
more about like kind of the journey, and um like how being an actor, it's like such an anchor. Like I always say, like my acting career has been such like an anchor for me, but like there's definitely then like this like relationship, to auditioning and to that lifestyle that's interesting. And so a lot of the songs are more about that.
I can't wait to hear it.
Simple.
I'm really excited
Thank
for that.
you.
Yeah. Simple. Yeah. All right. We're going to do just a few quick rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What is your favorite Broadway play and or musical?
Oh my God. I'm supposed to do this fast.
And no, it's okay. It's okay. Take your time. We can
I've
power of
always
editing.
loved Wicked. I've seen it like 5 times or something, 6 times. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I've seen Wicked a lot. I love Wicked. That's my favorite.
That's awesome. What's your go-to coffee drink?
Americano. Hot.
Just an Americano? Hot?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
But now I'm really
who's
into
your...
pour overs.
Go ahead.
So now I'm really into pour overs. Like if
Oh,
they have a special, like,
yeah.
fall blend or this or that, I'll get the pour over. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the move. Who has the best food? New York, LA, or Nebraska?
New York.
New York. Yeah,
Yeah, by far.
that seems easy. For sure. I mean, LA has good
Yeah.
tacos, but what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite? Who's like your favorite new artist? Or it doesn't have to be a brand new artist, but maybe someone that you just discovered recently that you're really into.
I'm really into. I just saw Donovan Woods and Rustin Kelly here
Mm,
in LA, and both of them are two that I've listened to both of their albums like a ton. And so those are two. And then of course, like everyone, I love Casey Musgraves right now. I mean,
that's great. I didn't even really know about Casey Musgraves until the Grammys. I'm that guy, so
yeah.
but
Oh
let me
no,
figure it out.
yeah, she's awesome. Oh, I just thought of another one. Have you heard of that band Cigarettes After Sex? They just put out a new album.
I haven't, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, their music is so fun to listen to. Like if you're like walking around a museum or like what what I mean? Like it's just so like nice to listen to. I don't know how, and it's like catchy, but yet it's like not I don't know. So I've been really into that band a lot. I mean, I was really into them before, and then they just put out a new album, so that sort of like reignited me listening to them lately.
I will have to check them out.
Yeah,
Avett Brothers or Mumford and Sons?
Avett Brothers.
Avett Brothers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
I
Oh yeah.
love
Okay. Okay.
them. I mean, when I was first writing songs, I
They're
listened
great.
to them constantly, so they have like a really special place. Like there's certain artists that when I was really like, you know what? Because I used to write songs even when I was little, but there was like a period of time when I suddenly was like, I'm going to do this. Like I took it, I guess I just like took it a little more seriously. And it was Avett
Yeah.
Bros. J May was another artist. I mean, there's like certain artists that I listened to during that time period that were like my fuel of like, yes, this is what you're going for or something. I don't know. Like
Right.
story. Yeah, yeah.
If you had to choose between giving up coffee or social media, which one would you choose?
Social media.
Yeah, for sure. Coffee
Yeah.
improves your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, social media, like there's so many wonderful things about social media, but like I find myself feeling like guilt. Like I never feel guilty after having a cup of coffee, but like I find myself being like, oh my God, I just lost like an hour of time. Like I don't even know where I was. I went down some hole of, it brings a lot of joy if you find something good, but sometimes it's like you're just scrolling, you know?
Last one. If you could work with any musical artist, obviously outside of Chandler Riggs, who's a DJ,
Yes.
who would it be?
I mean, people ask me this question a lot, and like, there is a part of me that's
Damn.
like, oh, I know. Oh, sorry. I mean,
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm kidding.
it used to be like, okay, my all-time favorite band is this band Frightened Rabbit. But the singer recently passed away, Scott, so that's not like possibility. But also
Right.
like, to be honest, for me, making music is such a bonding experience and something that I do with friends. So it's like when I think about like who would I want to like sing with or do stuff with, it's my friends, like it's like I mentioned that girl Haley. It's like my friend Jacob Jeffries, like I have a little side project called the Sweetheart Deal with my boyfriend, and he's a musician. And so it's like, I love making music with like the people that I love. So like, I love, like, I mean, I'd be like honored to get to like sing or play with someone super famous. Like, I mean, I mentioned like Casey Musgrave, she's amazing, or like these different people, or like Donovan Woods or something. But ultimately, like, I've found that music isn't so much of a like thing I do like for myself, and like, I don't know, my friends, that's who I want to make music with.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, since
Yeah.
you got that question a lot, I'm going to end with
Well,
one more.
okay.
No, it's fine. You have praised the benefits or the enjoyment of cooked life cereal.
Oh, yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Oh my God. Cooked Life cereal is basically just butter, Life cereal in a pan, heat it up, mix together, and then you eat it. And it's delicious. And you don't put milk or anything on it. It's just like salty and sweet, and like, now I want it. But it's something my mom used to make us as kids. And I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? And I thought it was just like my mom. But then like I found out, I remember in high school, like talking to other kids and then being like, oh yeah, my mom makes meat. So it must be, maybe it's a Nebraska thing. I don't know.
Maybe.
But like cooking
it sounded
cereal,
like a high concoction.
Oh, it's just, yeah, totally. It's something my mom made me, and it was like cooked. I guess the idea of like cooking the cereal in butter, it gets it more salty and sort of like savory, and so then it's like a really yummy snack.
Oh my God, I cannot wait
Because it's covered
to
in
try
butter.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you should definitely
that's
try
amazing.
it. It is so good.
Okay, great. I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Emily, for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can follow you and where they can hear your music.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Emmy Kinney, EMMYKINNEY, or on Twitter. Twitter's the same, EMMYKINNEY, or Facebook, and it's just Emily Kinney Music is the page. And you can find my music on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to music, and definitely follow along because I'll be putting out more singles before the end of the year, and then of course my new album next year. So check
Well, I
them
think
out.
I speak for the fans. We're all really excited about that. So
Oh, thank
thank you
you.
again so much.
Yes, thanks for having me. All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
On to our voicemail segment. Every week on Twitter, we ask you guys a fun question. You call in to a number, which is 213-536-1275. You leave your name, your city, and your answer. This week, we asked, what Walking Dead villain faction would you rather be a part of? There's a lot of options. There's the Saviors, there's Terminus, there's Woodbury, there's the Whisperers, there's the Wolves. So many great factions.
All of whom are trying to kill our heroes. But which one of these psychopaths did you guys want to throw in with? Let's find out right now.
All right.
Hi, this is Jennifer calling from Hamilton. The villain sanction I would easily go with would be Negan. As cliche as it sounds, the man cares about people and people are a resource. You follow his rules and everything will be fine. I cannot say the same for someone like the governor, who was very mentally unhinged. In Terminus, with Gareth having the force to kidnap and kill and eat people, the list goes on and on. Negan is the most logical choice, whether people care to believe it or not.
I love how Jennifer just planted her flag there, being like, it's the right choice whether you take it or leave it. And she's 100% right. The Saviors have an established organization. They work in a point system. They want to keep people because people are a resource. It makes total sense. I think that's, if it were up to me, I would also throw in with the Saviors.
It's definitely kind of like a mobile game. I mean, you definitely have to grind it out, almost like World of Warcraft.
Johnny, did you play the World of Warcrafts?
But I've heard you have to grind a lot.
You know, it's interesting. The point system and all that stuff that the Saviors work on is actually very similar to the system in Wesley Chu's Typhoon, which we covered last week, the novel.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so whatever you bring in your scavengers are the points that you get, and so you can get more and more stuff. So
Yeah, I like structure. I like to follow rules. I'm very, very happy. If a cop pulls me over, I'm like, yes, I did speed, and here's my license, give me the ticket, nice doing business with you. I feel like I would have thrived for a little while in the Saviors, but the Negan's wives would have bothered me.
I like your brutal honesty with the cops. Next up is Nate.
If I had to choose a villain group to join with, I would probably go with the Saviors, because all you have to do is just work. God, I'm way too fucking high for this right now.
I knew it! I knew it!
all you have to do is work and keep your mouth shut, and you'll get by. I mean, it's a little bit more tricky if you decide to join Negan's militia. You know, if you decide to be a soldier and fight with him, that's a little bit different. But if you're just one of the worker people, you know, they were in a community, all they were doing was doing their job and surviving. And that's pretty much how all of us are living right now, doing our jobs to survive. So, yeah, Sanctuary would be the easiest. Negan's group would be the easiest to join. My name's Nate, and I'm from Chicago. Hell yeah. Happy birthday.
First of all, we had to cut that off because Nate's message goes on for another 12 minutes. And honestly, he made some very good points about quantum theory. I don't know how we got on that tangent, but he really nailed it. So also, Nate, we knew from the get. And the next time that you're in LA, find us and let's burn one down.
Nate, never change. That was the best voicemail we've received. No offense to everyone else. You guys are all valued.
That's second to Gala.
Sorry, second to Gala. Fine. That I just halfway through, he's like, all right, I'm high.
All right, you caught me.
But he makes a really good point that if you just do the work and you sort of follow the rules and keep your head down, you'll be fine. Being in the militia is a different story. He's like, it's kind of like how we live now, which, I mean, that's definitely I am that kind of stoner where it's really, really slow until bam, revelation, and I change your life. So kudos to you, Nate.
Nate just dunked on capitalism.
Nate, you're a legend. We're going to reference you in future episodes. Please call back more.
All right, one last one.
Hey, this is Stephen Sweet. I'm calling from Sonoya, Georgia, land of the dead. And I guess I would have to go. I got to go with the Saviors. And it wasn't just because I did do background in season 7 as a Savior, but not just because of that. It's because Negan's just the man. And plus, a lot of the Saviors, they kind of got a chance for redemption, the ones that didn't get killed. And, a lot of them turned out to be all right. A lot of them turned out to be not all right, but I think I'd be one of the ones that kind of like, I don't know, one of the good guys, one of the bad guys turned good guys. So you just gotta go with Negan. I know you're probably getting that answer a lot, and, Negan's kind of been set up as the anti-hero now, but he should be. He's a man. Too charismatic to not go with Negan and the Saviors.
All right, well, that was Stephen Sweet. If you guys don't know him, he's actually one of our friends on the Walking Dead social media accounts. He's great. He is lives in Sonoya, Georgia, which is where they shoot a lot of the Walking Dead. He is a tour guide. He's there at the Woodbury shop. He does a lot of amazing things. Go follow him on Twitter. He's just a really genuine guy, and he actually played a Savior in season 7, which is really exciting.
Did we see Steven die at all in season 7?
No, we did not see him die. I think he's still alive.
I think we're primed for Steven to show up in one of the communities, or maybe he's one of those people who suddenly winds up in the Whisperer camp.
Oh,
I'm just saying, there's road for this.
I gotta say, guys, when I pondered this question, I thought back and I was like, no, screw Shane. Absolutely not Terminus. The Saviors thing, really, honestly, I thought I was like, I guess if I could be one of Negan's wives and just hang around in cocktail wear and just stick in the background and hope he didn't notice me, but that I was like, absolutely not. That is a horrible, horrible situation that he created. But I kind of initially I was just like, I would honestly probably stick in Newbury because it's big enough that you could just
Woodbury.
I'm sorry, pardon me, Woodbury. It's big enough that you could just I felt like I could fade into the background. But if we just eliminate the Negan's wives thing, the Saviors are the coolest.
Look, they've got the Saviors are fantastic for 1,000 different reasons. They have all these cool power tools and logging equipment which they utilized. They've got a cool whistle. They have all sorts of RVs. The Savior seems like a really good time. Although I got to be honest, until Woodbury burned to the ground, it seemed like a kind of Alexandria type place where I don't know, Woodbury seems like a pretty good match.
But one of the downfalls of Woodbury is that you could be on just a supply run with the governor and something might set him off and he just might shoot all of you randomly. So that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
That wraps up Talk Dead to Me this week. Special thanks to our guest, Emily Kinney. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I really appreciate it.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Happy birthday, Nate. Many happy returns.
I love how he couldn't think of goodbye, so he's like, happy birthday.
just, oh, man.
Oh, this is great.
Classic Nate.
Classic Nate.
Oh, man. I can't wait for him to call in again. Oh, this actually reminds me, speaking of Classic Nate and other voicemail things, did you know for our final Strasbourg fun fact that there are multiple ice cream shops? The #1 rated on Yelp is Strasbourg Creamery, which has all sorts of fun things. There's also